famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1975 in the United States. This is the first episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Larry Fine. He was born in October 1902 and he died in January 1975. His age was 72 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke complications. Larry Fine was an American actor, comedian, and musician. He is best known as a member of the comedy act The Three Stooges and was often called the Middle Stooge. At an early age, Fine started performing as a violinist in vaudeville between 1925 and 1928 while serving as the master of ceremonies at Rainbow Gardens in Chicago. Fine met Champ Howard and Ted Healy, who were performing in the Schubert Brothers A Night in Spain. Hence Howard was leaving the play for a few months. They asked him to be a replacement Stooge. Fine joined Ted's other Stooges, Bobby Pincus and Sam Moody Brown. Howard returned in September in 1928 to finish Spain's national tour. Fine was easily recognized in the Stooge features by his large top bald spot with thick, bushy, curly auburn hair around the sides and back. Moe called him Porcupine. According to humor, his trademark hairstyle had its origin from his first meeting with Healy, in which Fine had just wet his hair in a sink, with it drying oddly as they talked. Healy encouraged Fine to keep the hairstyle. Evelyn Greeley. She was born in September 1888 and she died in March 1975. Her age was 86 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. Evelyn Greeley was a prominent actress in silent films. She appeared in approximately 30 films from 1915 to 1922. Greeley is said to have attended the Francis Shimmer Academy, now known as Shimmer College, and the University School for Girls in Chicago, but some researchers have regarded this account of her education as simply another part of her fictional life story. Greeley began her acting career on the stage, touring with Polly Players stock company of Sylvester Z. Polly. She began working in film in 1914 for the Chicago-based SNA Studios, doing bit parts. It was only after more than a year that she obtained her first credit line in the Quality Pictures production The Second in Command. Greeley's career peaked in the years 1917 to 1919 when she was under contract with World Film Corporation and starred opposite Carlyle Blackwell in numerous films. Her contract with World Film ended in 1920, and in the ensuing years she appeared in pictures produced by several different companies. Greeley died in West Palm Beach, Florida on 25th March 1975. Julia Sanderson. She was born in August 1887 and she died in January 1975. Her age was 87 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. Julia Sanderson was a Broadway actress and singer. In 1887, she was born in Springfield, Massachusetts to parents Albert H. Sackett, also a Broadway actor, and Jeanette Elvira Sanderson. She was first managed within the family circle as child and teenage actor, with assistance from her Broadway experienced father and her mother. At the age of 18, she was in a show called Brewster's Million. She then played in the chorus of Winsome Winnie, and as understudy to actress Miss Prola Edwards. She was also considered for a part in a show called The Motor Girl, considered appropriate because of her interest and ownership of the early automobile. 1906 continued to prove busy as she went into the part of Mrs. Pineapple in A Chinese Honeymoon. After this, she was retained to play Mattia in Wang with Die Wolf Hooper. Then she played a part in Fantana. She then had a cast part in The Tourist but resigned from the company in December 1906. She appeared in The Dairy Maids, opening in Atlantic City in August 1907. then at the Criterion Theater, New York City, and on tour in 1907 season before going across to the United Kingdom, having been engaged by Charles Frohman. Bob Montana. He was born in October 1920 and he died in January 1975. His age was 54 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Bob Montana was an American comic strip artist who created the original likenesses for characters published by Archie Comics and in the newspaper strip Archie. While freelancing at True Comics and Fox Comics, Montana created an adventure strip about 4 teenage boys and tried to sell it without success. When Montana started working for the MLJ Comics, he was asked to work up a high school-style comic strip story featuring Archie Andrews. Bob Montana presented his 4-boy strip to John Goldwater. While working as a freelance artist at MLJ, Goldwater thought it would be more appealing to feature 2 boys and 2 girls than 4 boys. Goldwater liked the name Archibald, but Montana liked Chick. They settled on Archie. Montana and Harry Lucy collaborated on the first comic book story, which was featured in Pep Comics in December 1941, and its popularity led MLJ to assign Montana to draw the first issue of Archie. In November 1942, after serving in the Second World War in 1946, Montana was soon drawing the Archie comic newspaper strip, doing both the daily and Sunday strip, which over the next 35 years ran in over 750 newspapers worldwide. Harry Gunnison Brown. He was born in May 1880 and he died in March 1975. His age was 94 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Georgist economist teaching at Yale in the early 20th century. Paul Samuelson named Brown in a list of American saints in economics that included only 6 other economists born after 1860. After receiving his PhD, Brown worked as an instructor under Irving Fisher in the economics department at the Yale University until 1915. Brown held Herbert Davenport in high regard, and in 1915 Brown accepted a position under Davenport in the College of Business at the University of Missouri. Brown worked under Davenport for 1 year at Missouri until Davenport left for a position at Cornell University in 1916. Brown remained at MU, and during his career, he became chairman of the economics department as well as dean of the College of Business and Public Administration. Brown retired from MU in 1950. Harry Gunnison Brown was known throughout the United States as a Georgist and stood out as a staunch believer of advocacy of the ideas of Henry George. Through a majority of his life, he argued for tax reform along the lines proposed by George. A well-known area of specialization of Harry Gunnison Brown was that of taxation, specifically tax incidence. His text, The Economics of Taxation, was known as a benchmark for texts on the subject of tax incidence. Louis P. Lochner. He was born in February 1887 and he died in January 1975. His age was 87 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Louis P. Lochner was an American political activist, journalist, and author. During the First World War, Lochner was a leading figure in the American and the international anti-war movement. Later, he served for many years as head of the Berlin Bureau for Associated Press and was best remembered for his work there as a foreign correspondent. Lochner was awarded the 1939 Pulitzer Prize for correspondence for his wartime reporting from Nazi Germany. In December 1941, Lochner was interned by the Nazis but was later released in a prisoner exchange. During the second decade of the 20th century, Lochner was a leading activist in the American pacifist movement. In late 1914, he was appointed executive director of the Chicago-based Emergency Peace Federation and worked closely with social activist Jane Addams in an attempt to call an international conference of neutral nations to mediate an end to the First World War. Lochner, Adams, and their Emergency Peace Federation were instrumental in convening a national conference in Chicago in February 1915 that brought together delegates representing pacifist, religious, and anti-militarist political organizations from around the United States. Thomas Hart Benton. He was born in April 1889 and he died in January 1975. His age was 85 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Thomas Hart Benton was an American painter, muralist, and paint maker, along with Grant Wood and John Stuart Curry. He was the forefront of the regionalist art movement. The fluid, sculpted figures in his paintings showed everyday people in scenes of life in the United States. His work is strongly associated with the Midwestern United States, the region in which he was born and which he called home for most of his life. He also studied in Paris, lived in New York City for more than 20 years and painted scores of works there. Summered for 50 years on Martha's Vineyard off the New England coast, and also painted scenes of the American South and West. After studying in Europe, Benton moved to New York City in 1912, resumed painting. During the First World War, he served in the United States Navy and stationed at Norfolk, Virginia. His war-related work had an enduring effect on his style. He was directed to make drawings and illustrations of shipyard work and life, and this requirement for realistic documentation strongly affected his later style. Later in the war, classified as a camoufleur, Benton drew the camouflaged ships that entered Norfolk Harbor. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.